We want to welcome you to today's call. Today we have as our trainer, Mr. Bill Predebon. We are grateful for Bill. He is one of the leaders in his team in Arizona. He has had a lot of success in his life, and some of that success, or a good share of that success rather, is from the follow-up. He has learned how important following up is as both an entrepreneur, as a real estate professional, and all-around good guy. Bill, we're glad you're with us today. How are you, sir? Oh, wow, Bill, we've got that electronic chipmunk thing going on again. I don't know how that happens. I've been trying to work with Zoom and get that resolved. Uh, Let me have you log out and log back in, Bill, and see if that'll resolve our problem there. Bear with us, team, for just a little bit. You have to love a live event, right? Anything's possible.
Ron, can you hear me?
Hey, sounding loud and clear, Bill. Thank you so much.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me out on the call, and thanks for the opportunity from Michael and Christian and John O'Neill and you and the Elevate team to allow me to come out here and train. I greatly appreciate it, and that's an honor. Right on. So awesome, folks. Welcome. For those who don't know me, as you said, Ron, I'm here in Scottsdale. I've been around with Renatus since 2008 from Bob's old company. And then I had a leave of absence for about 5 years and have rejoined Renatus full-time in 2016. So I'm fortunate and glad to be here on the call. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about follow-up, as Ron mentioned out. And yeah, you know, my format, you guys feel free if you choose to, if you want to, you know, type any questions in the chat or, you know, whatever topic you want. It's an open forum. So if I'm going off on a tangent or talking about something, feel free to interrupt and, you know, and get clarity on anything or something like that. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat for that. So that way I'm not just sitting here talking at you guys. I hope to bring value all the time. And I only just teach and train or I guess share with you guys about personal experiences that I've experienced with Renatus and the marketing. So, you know, what I've found is a little bit of a tangent here, if you want to call it that, is that people in general, I wrote the word lazy, and they're not lazy necessarily, but, you know, it's just a fact, in my opinion, that, you know, not everybody's cut out for everything, right? So if you look at it and you watch TV, there's an incredible amount of commercials and advertising for a multi-billion dollar industry, which is the pharmaceutical industry, right? And so there's a pharmaceutical for just about everything you can possibly imagine. And you know, if you think about the gym, if you think about success, if you think about the divorce rate is 61% roughly. You know, and then as we dial it in and focus on what Renatus is all about, which is financial future, legacy wealth, and most importantly, just being comfortable at retirement, just being able to retire at all, for that matter, and live comfortably in retirement. If there wasn't a problem, if the system wasn't broken, we wouldn't have the Renatus that we have today, right? So obviously, there's a reason that the marketing isn't just a super fast make $100,000 in your first month and make $100,000 a month for there on out, right? Because no matter what we share with them, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter, you know, how much you want them to have it, no matter how much you believe in Renatus, no matter how deep the core beliefs of Renatus are in you, it's still, you can't force it on somebody, right? And for whatever reason, the American people are at this time and day and age, they're just not cut out to listen to it. Or if they do, they don't want it. It's too much work. It's too hard, or it's too unbelievable, right? And so, if you think about it, it goes back, in my opinion, it goes back how many years, right? Hundreds of years of just constant reality checks, if you will, from parents and grandparents and generations of letting people know how hard life is, how tough it is, how much you got to work for everything, and how you got to work hard, and you got to, life is going to come at you, and it sucks, and all these things. And so over hundreds of years, these limiting beliefs are instilled in people, and naturally you have segregation in different environments, and people are grown up in certain environments where the idea of wealth and prosperity and growth and things like that, and sharing and lifting other people up in abundance, those things, they're just not around. And so it's very difficult to break those barriers, right? And so that's what Renatus is trying to do. So, as we move into this training, or this topic, if you will, on Renatus and the marketing business, it goes to stand to be true that if you're working with one or two or 5 people, it becomes very difficult to see and have the success that you're looking for, or that you expect, or that you hear about with all the larger testimonies from across the country of the folks that are having success. You have that one person, whether it's warm market or cold market, that shares an interest, right? That says all the right things, that does all the right things, and comes to the meeting and begins to really express an interest in getting started. And so we work with that person. We care about them. We get emotionally attached to them, and it becomes a long process, because sometimes they can't fund, or they just can't get past the fact that it costs $20,000, no matter how much value you bring to that price tag. So what happens is time goes by, and then that person doesn't come to fruition, and you don't get a result. And the frustration sets in a little bit. Even if it's 2 or 3 or 5 people, the same thing may happen, where you have that expectation on that ratio of 1 in 5 warm market are going to close, or whatever it is, and it doesn't happen, or 1 in 20 of the cold market are going to close. And so you work closely with these folks, and it doesn't come to fruition. As you get to do this more often, right? And you get to become 5-star, and you get to build a team, or you just decide to take massive action. If you take massive action and you have 20 or 30 people booked to a meeting, and 10 or 15 of them show up, and you're working with 10 to 15 to 20 people at a time, you learn to find out that the follow-up becomes a very key element to your success and to helping folks move forward. I like to say, you get to cut to the chase. The earnings plan, in my experience, is set up. It is set up for us. It's a very powerful earnings plan, and it is set up for fast success. Naturally, you have to really have the combo. I mean, it's very important, if you're not a combo holder, that you're working towards that goal, even if you're continuing to move forward and study your education, your essentials, or you're advanced, and you're going to the meetings and you're doing the marketing. That is great. But in the meantime, simultaneously, the continuous effort has to be to find the money to continue to get the complete package, get the combo, right? And once you have that combo, there's an opportunity for you to really take advantage of the earnings plan. And the earnings plan would be set up for you to be very successful and quite fast. But for most of us, the earnings plan is set up where the success will come over a little bit of time. There's a decent amount of a learning curve, if you will. And I'm going to get into the more specifics here on the follow-up and examples and what I've been doing the last year and a half. And so as I key this up and set it up, as you begin your journey, and this earnings plan is set up where, for most of us, it's a little bit longer term, but it's relatively a short long-term period, right? Or it's a long short-term period. We're talking about a year to 3 or 5 years, right? It's not get rich quick. It's not overnight. There are many success stories, as you heard Michael yesterday talk about the 1% in their first year, and they make $8,000 a month in their first year, things like that. Those are great stories, but the majority, right? There's a little bit of a learning curve. And so with that, however, you are set up on an earnings plan with Renatus to honestly make a crap ton of money. And you can do it over time. And pretty soon your efforts will pay off exponentially, and it'll be a more leveraged system, and you won't have to work as hard, or I should say, you won't have to work necessarily as much to get the same result, because you'll have a leveraged team. In the meantime, even as you become 5-star is simply the beginning, right? I mean, when you enroll in the education and you pay $20,000 to have all this access to these resources, you're no more of a real estate investor than you were the day before. You are simply a $20,000 in debt real estate investor, right? Or whatever the case is. So now you just have a resource. You've made a commitment and a decision to become a real estate investor. So the same thing with the marketing. When you move through your training process, you're going through your 2 training sales with your 5-star. By the time you get 5-starred, you don't get to make money. You don't get to have a team. You don't get to be a leader. You don't get any of those things just because you're 5-star. That's simply the beginning. And I know everybody knows this. Again, a lot of the things I say are redundant, but perhaps it's for you to pass on to your team. But, the 5-star, you begin to go. And what I've found to be true is that the direct sales are very, very important. We are a direct sales company. We are not a multi-level marketing company, right? So we are focused on a direct sale, which is you making a sale. When that happens, you begin to have success. You collect a $10,000 check. You have a first team member. But by no means necessarily are you a follow-up expert. Are you a leader expert yet? You've simply had some success working your own business and doing your own job and putting butts in seats and getting a commitment and getting a sale and getting someone to enroll and changing their life, right? And you've done that once, right? You did it a couple times to get 5-star, but you also had a mentor, affiliate, a 5-star with you, someone there guiding you, helping you. You've gone through the training, and that was a training sale, and you were sitting down listening as they were asking the questions and things like that. Maybe some of you have done it on your own. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody has the perfect mentor or affiliate, and they're with them every single time. But my point is, you've got help around you. You're learning, right? So as you venture on your own and you own your own business as a 5-star affiliate, your first sale is your own. And you may or may not have done the follow-up and the commitment and gotten the order and asked for the sale and had the after party and all those things on your own, but you've done it once. We need to repeat that process, right? And as you begin to repeat that process, you begin to get recognized, from your peers and from leadership. And fairly soon, as you have a $10,000 a month or a $20,000 a month, or you have 2 or 3 sales over a quarter of the year or half a year, all of a sudden you're asked to share testimony. You're asked to share your story. You're asked to do a 30-minute training on a call, or a 30-minute training or an hour training at a Super Saturday, and you get to be that recognition. And then when you lead by example, folks, people follow. People are attracted to you. People will want to know what you're doing, because you're now paving a path that they want to go down. You're now doing things that they want to have success and feel and experience themselves. So they're attracted to you. It's going to be the same with your team. As you have this 1 or 2 or 3 sales, you have people that are just beginning, right? And they're on your team. They belong to you. They owe you 2 pass-ups. So to stop your direct sales and simply work with them with your inexperience in being a leader and a mentor, or an affiliate is difficult, right? You want to lead by example. It's the strongest way you can do it for someone that's brand new to the team. And when you're a brand new 5-star affiliate, it's really leading by example. They can watch and learn and listen. They don't necessarily need you to guide them or coach them. You'll become more effective and efficient as you begin to have more experience doing it yourself, right? So they will watch and learn and emulate you and follow you and practice and do what you do faster than they will listen to what you do, right? So your team will be beginning to build their own team and go through the steps and start to invite guests and start to do things based on the fact that you're doing it. So your first 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 sales are going to be your direct sales. They're going to be you working hard, following the system, and building a team. And in that 5 or 6 or 3 or 8 or whatever you feel, you'll begin to start to want to lead your team. Right? You always want to lead your team, don't get me wrong, but you're going to want to, develop your team members into 5-star affiliates and things like that. And then that's when that leverage system will start to come out, and you'll start your own team call, and you perhaps might begin to do some personal training with your team and recommend books and things like this and become the leader that you're meant to be. And they will have that belief in you and that trust in you already, because they will have seen you in front of the room. They'll hear you on calls doing testimonies and things like that. And they'll understand they'll see that you're leading by example and you're having the success and you're collecting $10,000 paychecks, and they'll see that your team is growing, and they'll want to follow. They'll want to listen, and they'll want to be taught by you and trained by you and have you share your experiences with them. All right. So that's going to set it up. That's why I believe the earnings plan has such a great opportunity for so many of us, for everybody, in a short, long period of time, where it takes a year or 2 years for you to develop your team of 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 affiliates. And in that time frame, you're doing the direct sales, and you're beginning to experience what it likes to become a leader and to lead a team and to train and to give back. And then you can start to experience the fruit of your labor by having 10 or 20 or 30 people get to be 5-star qualified, right? So and if you have that 5-star affiliates below you, and you've got 20 of them, and they all owe you 2 sales at $19,000, you can do the math, but it's almost $400,000, right? So that's the possibility and the potential and the opportunity that we're talking about here. So in order to make that happen, we've got to really talk about follow-up, right? We've got to do the work. We've got to move people through the system. And so, I'm not going to talk much about lead generation right now or building for events and things like that. Talking to the people, seeing the people and things. I'm going to go into the follow-up, right? I'm going to assume that we've got some folks at the meeting, okay? And I call it a meeting on our call, but I don't call it a meeting to them, right? I call it a real estate business forum. I call it a real estate event, or something like that, or a business event, or a business opportunity training or something like that, but I don't call it a meeting, right? So, I prepare myself for the number of guests that I'm going to have and my team's going to have on every Thursday night and every property tour, right? And I kind of prepare myself for who is in the room and who I want to speak with first. I also let my team know that wherever I go in the room, and whoever I'm talking to, that I would prefer that they just bring their folks over to me so I can effectively and efficiently speak to one while speaking to all. If they want to have their own conversations and do their own follow-up and do their own building for a future event, right? So build to the next event on their own, they're more than happy to do that. They're more than welcome to do that. And it's up to them. But if they want to experience my knowledge and share my experiences, then they bring their guests over to wherever I'm sitting. When I sit with someone, you guys, and you've heard this a million times, right? What did you like best, right? It's the first question out of my mind typically, or, a lot of times I joke around and I'll be like, hey, didn't you love the show? Right. So it's more of an implied question, not an open-ended, touchy-feely question where they could say, no, I didn't like it. Right. It's more of an implied question. Did you love the show tonight? I'll call it a show, or an event or extravaganza or something elaborate. And but mainly I move right into, what did you like best? And I don't leave that question necessarily open-ended, like, hey, what did you like best? I kind of guide them. What did you like best? Did you enjoy the velocity banking? Is it the real estate you want to do, the buy and hold? Do you like the opportunity of all the education, or do you like the community? So I give them some choices, because everybody knows in all sales and everywhere across the country, people like choices. So I give them a few choices of how to answer. So they don't have a choice that says, no, I didn't like it. They don't have a choice that says, I really wish the guy dressed differently or talked louder or whatever the question is. There was only four choices, and they were all positive choices, right? What did you like best? And then I'll reiterate what they said. Oh yeah, the velocity banking, and you've heard Michael, and all these leaders, you guys, I'm no different. And by any means, I'm not a Michael Evans. You'll hear him say, oh, well, then we need to get you going in the velocity banking, right? So he'll have a comeback to that. Or he'll reiterate, yeah, we need to get you going, or we need to get you started, or yeah, you've got to get into that education. So I usually tell a story, right? The minute they say they like a certain element of the night, I reiterate what they say. Oh, you like the velocity banking? Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about that. It's amazing what the possibility is. And I'll tell a story. I'll tell a story about someone saving some money on velocity banking, how long they've been in the system with Renatus and things like that, and I'll even tie it into how it can even save them more money than they'll ever invest in the Renatus education alone, right? And then, I do sometimes, and you may or may not have heard this before, I will also not simultaneously, but in the middle of this conversation, and let me backtrack just a little bit. When I'm having these conversations with folks, here's the thing we're doing on Thursday night, or even a property tour for that matter. I don't know about your schedule, but I work a full-time business in my real estate business, right? And I have a full day most of the time, and so come Thursday night, I didn't just wake up and go to my job that happens to be at night. Right? Some people work night shift, right? They work an 8-hour shift. They sleep all day. They get up at 4 o'clock. They have some breakfast at 5 p.m. and they go to an 8 p.m. shift and they go to work. It's not the case, right? So many of you are in the same boat. You work a double job and now you're on a double. And so your double is Renatus. You're coming to work. So I don't plan on being at this event for another hour on a follow-up. I'm going to stay as long as it takes. Don't get me wrong. But I also want to get to the point. By no means am I going to sit there and close somebody necessarily on a $20,000 sale in front of 30 other people. I don't even have a computer open a lot of times. I have it with me for special occasions, but I'm on purpose on this meeting. My purpose is to book a one-on-one or a call the next day. Even if we have a property tour on Saturday or a Super Saturday, I'm going to build for that event naturally, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I am also looking to speak to them and follow up with them the next day. And a lot of them are not my own team. They're my team's team. So they're not a direct sale. So I'll remind them that they will get with, with the person that invited them, which is usually standing right there with me. And I'll say, hey, Raphael, will get me your number. Here's my card. And we'll coordinate a 3-way call tomorrow so that I can follow up with them then. But so that was just so you guys have an idea of, that I'm on purpose and I need to get to every single person in the room that I can, that was a part of my team and my direct people, that I have a commitment to get with them on the phone the following day. And generally speaking, I use my brain and my head, but I also have a piece of paper that I write it down with if I need to, as to what time that is going to be. And I'll ask them what their schedule is the next day. Do you work tomorrow? Are you busy tomorrow? What's a good time tomorrow for me to follow up with you, right? And if you have a job and you have business during the day tomorrow, then you'll want to only give them options of times that you can do it, right? You don't want to say, hey, what time can you get on the phone? And they say, oh, at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and you got to be at work at a meeting at 9 a.m. Doesn't do you any good. So if you have to be, for me, I have an open schedule. Even though I work all day with my real estate business and my marketing business, I can change my schedule around however I want. So I can make it easy for me to accommodate someone on their time. So if that's not your case, then it's important that you give them options of when you can talk to them. So with that, you guys, I move into this. And if you're taking notes, you may want to write this down or keep it in your head. But I love it. I used to use it. We were taught this back in the day. This is a Bob Snyder thing. I didn't make it up. And it's called the 1, 2, 3 close. I have a question from Tyler. It says, Bill, when you have multiple guests, do you like talking to them individually or pulling everyone together in a group and ask the questions to start like a group conversation? Very, very good question. So fortunately or unfortunately, it could be fortunate because you might have too many guests in the room. Some people are going to get up and leave. You're not going to be able to go and gather everybody up personally yourself. So I'm going to assume that we're talking about direct guests, right? My team's guests, like I said, they know to bring them over to me or deal with them themselves. So most of the time they'll bring them over to me where I'm at. I target as many guests as I can at once if they're sitting close to each other, and I will move over there. And here's what I do. I sit down. I don't stand up. I try to pull up a chair and sit down, and then all of a sudden you'll see other people sit down with me. So we know that we're going to be here for a few minutes. So it's not, no one's in a rush. So I do sit down. And so what I do with multiple guests is I try to have them all in a semicircle or a circle. And typically I start right away with the first person I come up with. And as people are around me right there, they'll start to listen in. But I'm very observant and I'm very quick on not just spending all my time on one person. The minute I ask them what did they like best, I move to the next person. I'll acknowledge that, and then I'll move to another person. So if Raphael or Lucy or Brian or Todd, if they brought somebody over to me, then I notice the guest. I'm like, hey, I'm Bill, glad to meet you. I'm glad you like, what did you like best? I was just asking Rose over here what she liked. What did you like best about tonight? The velocity of banking or the real estate or what? And so I'll ask it several different times to several different people. And then I'll kind of talk in generality to everybody. I'll tell the story to all of them. And I'll move back and forth with eye contact in my head to see in front of everybody that is listening, even my team, as I'm telling the story. And then I'll ask a question again. And I'll ask it in general to everybody. And I'll kind of look at a different person to answer. And what I was getting at is with my guests, I will ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm sorry, that's a different comment. A lot of times I'll ask them, listen, I'm just curious, if a lot of times people aren't, they're not that interested in what we see. Typically, they love what they see and they want to do it, but the timing's not right. And so sometimes that person might be a 3. It's just not ready. It's just not the time. Most of you are probably a 2. And I say, what I mean by a 2 is, you're totally interested. If perhaps you could just get a few questions answered, if you could understand a little bit more about what the $20,000 investment gets you or how you get started in real estate, what's your first steps and stuff like that. If you could get those questions answered, you'd be in, and other than finding the money, you'd be joining us. And some of you, like if you were like me, you're a 1. The minute you saw this, you're like, hey, I'm going to find the 20 grand and I'm getting started and I'm a 1. So I'll say, as a 1, 2, or 3, don't just kind of give me an idea of where you're at. And I like the 1, 2, or 3 close. I call it a close. It's really a 1, 2, or 3 sorting category, and most people are a 2. And the minute someone tells me they're a 1, I kind of focus in on that person, right? I've already done my work. If I'm working with multiple guests, Tyler, and I'm sitting there trying to pick, the person that is going to be the greatest possibility of a close, I'm not going to alienate or isolate any of the others. But if someone tells me they're 1, I'm going to focus on them and I'll ask you, great. So let me ask you if I can help you establish what you're capable of in finding the $20,000 to get started and share with you some of the ways that some of my students have gotten started, would you get started today? Well, yeah. Okay, great. So here's what we need to do. The best time is obviously it's getting late. The best thing for us to do is get on the phone tomorrow. In fact, I prefer to meet one-on-one. Would you prefer to meet one-on-one? Yeah, absolutely. Great. What time tomorrow are you able to get together with me? Sit down. It's going to take about an hour, maybe a little hour and a half. I'm going to get your questions answered, but more importantly, I'm going to help you find the money, and I'm going to share with you ideas of how you can make a decision to find the money that you already have, the resources you're capable of funding, and we're going to get you started tomorrow, right? And then people that are 2s or 3s are sitting there listening to me talk to my 1, and they're like, they're going to feel a little bit of urgency. They're going to feel a little bit of wow, this is actually happening. Someone actually wants to do this, right? So if I have multiple guests, I don't want to coddle them and sit there and BS with them for 5 minutes at a time. And I got 5 people, that's a 40-minute conversation, right? Give or take. Well, 5 times 5 would be 25, but you get my point. I'm going to be there a while, and I don't want to be there a while. I definitely don't want to have social conversation necessarily. I want to get to the point with as many of my guests as possible, and I want to get them in the books with a meeting for Friday or a meeting for Monday if it's a Saturday, right? Like, I enjoy my Saturdays. I go to the property tour 3 times out of the month. I host the property tour, and so I'm working all the time additionally in my business. So when the property tour is over, I want to do my business. I want to get my people booked to my week's events. And I want to get out. I want to move on to my Saturday and enjoy my Saturday. So the faster I can cut through the chase and figure out who's really interested, right? Now, occasionally, depending on the time, when I don't know someone, there's always a little small talk. I'm not going to avoid it. If someone's talking and they want to share their story, as most people do, they just want to throw up on you, as we tend to do when we want to talk about Renatus, right? I'm not going to interrupt them. I'm going to listen. And so sometimes I have to adjust. I have to take a little bit more time and be there. I have to wait. The minute there's a breath, though, I'm going back on point. I'm trying to figure out how I can book the other people. Remember, those that talk the most sometimes are going to take the most of your time and probably end up being the longest ones to close. And they're going to take a lot more due diligence. So I will move to some of the more silent ones and specifically ask them a question when I can. Oh, that's a great point. I really appreciate you sharing with that. And I'll look right over to the next guy or girl and I'll say, do you feel the same way? Are you interested in real estate? Would you like to get together tomorrow, either on the phone or one-on-one in person, so we can move you towards getting enough information so that you can make a decision? Whether it's with or without Renatus, you still want to have all the information you want in order to make the proper decision. You want to be educated and make an educated decision. And that's what the one-on-one is going to help you do. And in this, you guys, I'll also get them to, of course, commit to the Saturday event, whatever that Saturday event is. So here's what a follow-up, in my opinion, looks like the next day, right? A Friday. And if you have any questions on Thursday night, feel free to chat, type it in or ask, or just, come off mute, whatever you want to do. If you're on the phone, it's fine. So, I was talking to Raphael yesterday. We had a one-on-one set up, and he was texting. And I got to tell you this. Texting is an interesting thing, and I can't tell you how to do your business or anything, and I would never do that. So whatever you want. I will tell you that, in my opinion, this is a people business, and in my experience, I don't text to follow up. I text my contractors because I don't want to talk to them necessarily. I don't text my guests. I talk to my guests. I talk to my follow-ups. So, when you ask questions like, hey, are you a 1, 2, or 3? What did you like best? Do you have any questions on text? When you do all that stuff, the conversation is long. You can't have these long conversations in text. You have to tell stories. You don't want to answer questions. When you're in text, they're going to ask specific questions, and it's very uninvasive. It's very easy for folks to ask you a question on a text, and then it's very easy for you to respond and try to answer that question. And you can't do question-based selling via text. It's very difficult. You can't just sit there and ask them questions and be like, dude, you're ignoring the question. Answer the question, right? And you're sitting. But in conversation, it's completely different. So in your follow-up, it needs to be a phone call. You're welcome, Tyler. in follow-up, it needs to be a phone call. And you want to call them and qualify for the time. Hey, this is the time we talked. We said we'd get on the phone. Is now a good time? And so, the follow-up call, in my opinion, the following day is simply another time to book to a follow-up one-on-one. In my opinion, in my experience, there should be no one-on-one 1 hour conversations over the phone, unless of course you are out of state. If you are within an hour of each other, I would meet in the middle and I would get together. Arizona and Phoenix is a very, very large flat grid. And I have to drive many times 30 to 40 minutes to get to somebody. And I don't even go all the way to them. Naturally, I will meet them halfway. But it is far greater and a far better opportunity for you to place an order and ask questions and get a commitment in person than it is on any phone call. So when I have phone calls on Fridays or after any event, even that night, those conversations are, again, simple. There may be one or two questions that I'm going to answer. Thank you, Michelle. But they are going to be with the purpose of getting them moving towards the next time I'm going to meet with them, right? So if we're just doing a follow-up call on Friday because I didn't have enough time Thursday night to get everybody booked to a one-on-one, then I book them to a three-way call with my team member or with myself if it's my direct sale, and I am literally, or with my affiliate if I'm not 5-star, I would absolutely do all of these events with your 5-star. I think you're foolish. Foolish is a strong word. I think you're courageous if you are doing it on your own, but I think your learning curve, you'll learn a lot from it, but there may be an opportunity lost there if you're trying to do it without having the experience that your 5-star has. So I recommend doing these calls and things and sitting in your meetings and stuff with your affiliate as often as you can. Typically it's myself and Joe or all my guys, Brian and Lucy and Todd, Raphael and everybody. We're all Aaron, and we're all doing the calls together with their team, with their guests. And there may be a few questions that I answer. Hey, did you have any specific questions right off the top of your head? Maybe you looked at renatus.com, or maybe, you thought of something from last night because it was a long day and now you have a question or two that I can answer right away. Otherwise, we'll get these questions answered. We'll kind of share with you, and I'll kind of set them up for what the meeting's going to be like, right? This one-on-one. The purpose of this one-on-one is simply, obviously, move them, and I'll get to this scale in a minute, but move them to a decision. And so a lot of times that decision may get postponed to the next event. They need a third or fourth exposure. But whether or not, I'm still having that second exposure with that one-on-one follow-up. And so this event is, this call is simply answering some questions. And then I tell them, tomorrow, I'm going to go through the education. I'm going to kind of share with you the value of $20,000. Most importantly, we're going to make sure that you are ready to make the right decision, which is join Renatus. And I know that that's what you want, but you want to be positive about it, right? Great. Exactly. So we're going to reinforce all what you feel and what you believe to be true about Renatus and why you want to make this $20,000 decision. And then once you do make that decision, which I'm sure that you will, and I know, from my experience, that's what most people do, and you're going to want to get started at the combo level, then this is what's going to happen. We're going to talk about how my team and many of us, including myself, have funded this education. In fact, none of us, not even me, I didn't have the money. I may have done 130 transactions. I've been with Renatus for 10. I have a team of 30 people and all these great things, but I didn't have a dime when I got started. I didn't have the credit. I didn't have a 401k. I didn't have a retirement. I didn't own a business anymore. I had no resources other than my own desire to get started. So here's what I did. I leaned on a family member to come back, and I called them up and I gave them a proposal that said, listen, if I do all of the work, if I find the bank and I get the paperwork and I fill it out and I do all of the loan proceeds and I just help you get all of the documents that you need to get this loan, would you consider co-signing a loan for me and helping me get started in this education? And that's how I got started. So what I'm going to do for you tomorrow at this meeting is, once you make the decision that you want to do it just like I did, and you want to get this combo, then we're going to help you find a way that you're capable of deciding on how you are going to fund this education. Is that fair? Yeah, that sounds great. wow, that would be great if you could help me find the money like that, because I don't have the money. You know what I mean? Understood. Most of us don't, and that's what we're here for. And so that I set them up for what's going to happen tomorrow at this meeting, right? And here's why I do a phone call a lot of times, you guys. There are going to be people right at the meeting that you know from your conversations with your direct sales or from your conversations with your team members that are 8s, 9s, or 10s. People that you want to get with right away at the end of the meeting. You want to make sure they don't run out the door, and you want to ask them a couple questions, right? You want to get to know them. You want to move them forward. You're excited about them, right? And so those people, you want to book the one-on-one perhaps right away. But there are going to be cold leads. And like I said in the beginning of this training, unfortunately, this isn't for everybody. It is for everybody, but everybody doesn't take advantage of it. And 9 out of 10 are going to fail, because that's the 90% of America that's going to stay stuck in the crap that they're in. And it's just a fact. And it's the faster you can get through those folks, the faster you can find the ones that can do that. So when I don't want to set up 10 one-on-ones for people that will never, ever, ever, if I left the $20,000 on the table, they would take it and pay for the education, right? I can't spend 2 hours anymore with them. If you have 1 or 2 people, you're going to do that all day long, but you're going to get frustrated because you're working with 1 or 2 people who are never going to fund. It's just a fact. And I shouldn't say never. Never is a strong word, so take that back and ignore that word. But who are going to take a much more of your time. They're going to drain a little bit of your energy. They're going to discourage your beliefs over time. Eventually, they may get around to it. But in the meantime, you could have worked with 10 other people that want it badly as you do. So the phone call, in my opinion, is a follow-up where that can set apart the decision on whether you just book them to another more effective way. An effective way or an efficient way of getting someone to move forward is get them to an event where someone else is doing the work for you. You may not even show up at that event, but they are. A webinar, a follow-up webinar, a property tour, a Super Saturday, whatever it is that you can get them to as a second or third exposure, where you don't have to sit there and spend all their time. And so now their belief and their decision is starting to grow a little bit, and they become more and more interested, and they start to put aside the fact that they don't have the ability to fund 20 grand. So this phone call, when you ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being no matter what, whether you have the money or not, you're ready to enroll, and you're going to find the money no matter what, and you're going to get started in the combo, and you want to be just like me and everybody else that you met last night and get involved in the real Renatus and real estate and marketing, and or forget the marketing, because most of the time we're not doing that on first and second exposure. But getting started, become a real estate investor, get into the education as fast as possible. The time is now, and you're ready to go, right? 9, 10, you're ready to go. 1 being, this just isn't for you. I mean, you're not interested. You like what you saw. You love the people. You love me. La, la, ha, ha, ha. We're going to be a great team together someday. But right now, you're just not into it. And adios. Thanks for the opportunity. Where do you see yourself, right? And very few people are 4, 5, or 6, right? They might be a 5 because that's a common number, but they're not a 2, 3, or 4, and they're not a 6 or 7. Usually they're a 7, 8, or a 9, right? And sometimes a 10. So you want to have them help you, like those cards that Woody came out with, right? And these personality things and stuff. You want to have them help you help them, right? What is that? Help me help you, right? And so they can help you help them by telling you what number they are, and then you can move them into and decide on who you want to spend your time with. I made a mistake yesterday, and somebody told me a 4, and maybe they told one of my team members that they were a 4. And so it was a text back and forth, and again, text lost in translation, right? So I was texting my teammate, and the teammate was texting the guest. And so when he asked him about the 4, and he explained on text what it was, the guy came back and said it was a 4. And I said, well, God, if it's a 4, I'm like, I'm not even going to waste my time. I'm like, just tell it, do the takeaway. Just be like, what? It's not for everybody. Our time is better spent. Maybe it's best if you kind of see a couple more events or whatever, however we responded. But it wasn't like, hey, let's get together tomorrow because you're a 4, right? If you're telling me you're not that interested in what I'm offering, why do I want to go and drive an hour and spend 2 hours sitting there on, with you? And I'm not saying this, I'm just saying this to you guys, right? What I should have done is had my teammate clarify what he means by a 4. You've heard Michael say this. You know, when someone asks you a question or someone talks to you sometimes, one of the best things to do is always just clarify with, what do you mean by that? What does that mean to you? Can you explain that to me? I don't understand what you mean. And it's still a question-based selling, and you're still either getting them off topic or moving them towards more of a real specific point they're trying to make or question they have. And I should have clarified what he meant by a 4, and I probably wouldn't offend the guy on how I told my team member to respond. Nonetheless, we'll try to coddle that relationship. I think the guy is interested. I don't think he meant that he was a 4. Maybe he just meant that he was a 4 because the money's so far off from being a 10 that it puts him in a 4 category. And that's quite possible. I mean, some people cannot fathom $20,000 ever. So they're not going to be a 7, 8, or 9 regardless of the money, or they might not understand that we mean you could be a 7, 8, or 9 in your mind, in your heart, but you're not a 10 only because you don't have the money. And unless we explain that to them, they don't understand. So I like in the follow-up call, and even in the meeting, even on a one-on-one, I use the same 10s. I need to know where they're at. And then my next question simply is, what questions do you have? What concerns do you have? Why are you not a 10? How do I get you from a 7 to a 10, from a 6 to a 10, from a 4 to a 10, or at least a 9, where 9 being you just need to find the money, right? And the reason I do this is, oh my God, I lost my thought, is I want them to tell me where their concerns are, right? I mean, everybody's got a concern. I don't want to guess. I don't want to assume anything. I want to get to the point. I want to spend my time. You know, I could sit there and you guys could sit there and our affiliates could sit there and spend 10 hours on the benefits of Renatus and trying to convince somebody of Renatus. But why not have someone tell us what it is they don't understand about Renatus, what it is they fear about Renatus, why they think that they're not going to be able to be successful with Renatus, or whatever the question is, or maybe they just don't like some guy they met last night and they need to tell you this. And so when we can overcome that scenario, we can move them to a 10. And then literally I say, if I can move you from a 7 to a 10, a 6 to a 10, an 8 to a 9, whatever that is, the whole point is not for you necessarily to, I'm not asking you to, you know, you're going to join Renatus. But at a very least, I want to get you to a point where you can look me in the eye and go, Bill, I have enough information that I can make a decision today to get started or not get started, so that I don't continue on down the path chasing this person, calling them and texting them and wondering if they're going to come to the next event. I'm still going to drip on them in the future. However, I want to get them to the point. And most of the time, by the time they're a 10, they're going to make the decision to go and move forward. And so that's what I use that 1 through 10 scale all the time. And I really want to clarify who I'm on the phone with and who I'm going to go. And so like Tyler said, when you have multiple guests, you want everybody to enroll, but not everybody enrolls. They definitely don't enroll the next 2 or 3 conversations or exposures. It takes one of people, that one person that does that. And you want to be able to pick that person as fast as possible, work with them the most, spend your time with them the most, just like when your team members, when you're building a team, you got 8, 9, 7, 8, 10, 10, 15, 20 people, 100 people on your team, you know, you're going to spend time with the people that are doing the most work. You're going to spend time with the people that are in the education. You're going to spend time with the people that are going to the meetings and bringing you guests and creating follow-ups for you. You're going to go ahead and you're going to try to start light fuels under fire of people that aren't showing up, and you're going to call them and text them and do all those things that you do because you're a servant leader and you're a great person and you believe in them more than they believe themselves and all that stuff. But your time is going to be spent with the people that are producing and meeting you more than halfway. And it's the same with your guests. Your time is going to be spent with the people that you think can fund and that you think really want this, not the ones that you wish that they do, not the ones that tell you all the things that you want to hear, none of that crap. You want to spend the time with the people by asking them, have them tell you where they are and what they're capable of. All right, folks, it is almost 8 o'clock. It's 7:57. I want to respect your time as always. If there's any last minute thoughts, comments, or questions, I'm going to go ahead. For some of you, you may or may not be new. I'll put in my cell phone number. You're welcome to text me or call me at any time. And with any questions, or if you got anything that we weren't able to cover today. Yeah, someone raised their hand, and I got to figure out what that means. Thanks, Bill. This is exactly, you're welcome, Keely. Man, where's the little hand thing, you guys? I wish I knew it. Somebody raised their hand. I really honestly don't know how to even find that. Let's see. I think it was Monica. If you have a question, you can come out and type it in the comments, or just come off mute. I think you have to come off mute by, oh, there, I unmuted you if you want to talk, Monica.
Where do you get the recording for what you just did, your training, so I can listen to it again?
Oh, awesome. So the recording for this training, Ron Heyer is awesome. As we all know, he's the man, and he will put this recording up on the Elevate Facebook private group page.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think he does it usually the same day, within a few hours or whatever it is. So, yeah, look for that to pop up on your feed for the Facebook private group for Elevate.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
You got it. Tyler, you're welcome. Keely, you're welcome. You guys are awesome. All right, it's 8 o'clock. You've got my cell number, 760-533-3141. Feel free to text me or call me, and make it a prosperous day, a great day. Make it happen. You guys are freaking awesome for being here. I'm just super stoked and honored to be a part of this and to be able to train you guys and share with you guys every Tuesday. So thanks for your participation. It means a lot to me. Make it a great day, you guys. Take care.